And then Ben, are you let me know as soon as you see it pop up.
I see it.
Okay. All right.
Unmute, okay.
Rayanne, I like your Northern Lights.
Oh, I try to change it up a once in a while.
I love it.
Yeah, you do good. You know where the video camera is at the bottom, the left-hand side of the screen? There's an arrow going up. Hit that.
Okay, we're live on YouTube, guys. Just
Oh, sorry.
I'm just letting you know.
I don't even see me in.
You're in. There's literally 25 people that just come in all at once, and I have to promote them to panelists one at a time.
I gotcha.
So it'll just take a quick second here. That's Mark. Ben. Okay, I've got a lot of people here with, so, okay, Johnny Hill, I got. Okay, 7. Who's the last 47403?
That's Ron Young.
Okay. And then last 47484.
Ron Bloom.
Okay. Thank you. And then who's the last 46196?
It's Candace.
This is just kind of hard. We'll have 3 meetings right in a row like this. Sorry, guys. 8476. The last 4, 8476.
It's Kelly, Randy.
Okay. And who's the last 4 of 3961?
Johnson. Johnson, Randy.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, Domingo, I guess that's looks like we're ready to go. If you want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is agenda for the emergency meeting, City Council of the City of Blue Island, Illinois, held remotely on Tuesday, May 12th, 2020, 5 p.m. as permitted by Executive Order 2020-07, signed by Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker on March 16, 2020, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. To participate remotely, download the Zoom app or call 312-626-6799. Special meeting of the City Council, ID 811-9490-777 with a password of 435673.
All right. As a result of this, I'm calling the meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, we need a roll call, please.
Sure. Alderman Hill. I saw him in here. Alderman Hill. Alderman Meck. Hang on a second. Alderman Mack.
Here.
Alderman Carr.
Here.
Alderman Carr here. Cantelo-Zylman.
Here.
Cantelo-Zylman here. Clinker.
Here.
Clinker here. Johnson.
Here.
Johnson here. Alexander.
Here.
Alexander here. Bellato.
Here.
Bellato here. Costas.
Here.
Costas here. Rita.
Here.
Rita here. Donahue.
Here.
Donahue here. Holly. Alderman Farnwell.
Here.
Alderman Farnwell here. Alderman Holly.
Holly's on mute, I think.
I see him.
Okay.
Holly. Unmute.
Holly. I don't show him here. And then Alderman Hill.
Alderman Hill here.
Yeah, I thought I saw you in there. Okay. And Holly. Okay, Alderman Holly is here as well. 13
All right.
present, Your Honor.
Could you read number 3, Mr. City Clerk?
Public comment. Public comment shall be by email only. Persons interested in making public comment must email their public comment to rhoiser@cityblueisland.org by Tuesday, May 12th at 6:55 p.m. Email public comment will be read during this public comment portion of the meeting, of the special meeting, sorry. And I have 2 comments from the public. First is
Could
from
you read
Carol-
them?
Sure. First is from Carol DePace Green. Blue Island City Hall is in the middle of a dual pandemic and economic crisis. Neither crisis is going away anytime soon. COVID-19 has made it into the White House, the Thompson Center, Blue Island City Hall, police station, at least one Blue Island restaurant. People need to watch the last 2 Finance Committee meetings, review Finance Committee agendas, look at Finance Committee packets via FOIA requests, compare agendas to information discussed in the Finance meeting. Mark Scarlato, Montana and Welsh Legislative Council, actually botched the first draft of the hiring freeze ordinance. The Finance Committee is distributing contracts to Well Connected. At the end of the April 27th Finance Committee meeting, Alderman Kevin Donahue acknowledged the fire chief, police chief, and department and directors were not consulted regarding union issues of any kind before the Montana and Welsh ordinance was written. Both the hiring ordinance and ordinance regarding legal fees should come out of the Judiciary Committee only after a very careful review. Since 1 of 2020, there have been no restaurant inspections in Blue Island. Likewise, there have been no inspections of stores that sell food. A full-time health inspector will be needed to inspect all of the restaurants and food businesses when they're allowed to completely open. For now, pick up and go and food businesses have gone without inspections for the last 6 months. We know this because no bills have been submitted for health inspections since January 1st, 2020. Alderman Donahue has not properly submitted any meeting minutes for a vote in his committee. Alderman Donahue is acting improperly on multiple levels. Finance Committee Chair and Donahue and the committee need to function transparently. Look at reality, follow proper channels, and begin meeting the critical needs of Blue Island without any further delay. Blue Island is not going to see any of the property taxes, sales tax, video gaming tax, or gas sales tax anticipated. Blue Island is an economic shock with more than 1 in 4 unemployed. Blue Island food insecurity is growing. The surge has not been acknowledged or addressed as it should be by the Blue Island elected officials. The fire department demand grievance was heard during the 5/11 Finance Committee meeting. Chair Donahue continues to routinely fail to get any finance meeting minutes approved by the Finance Committee as evidenced by his Finance Committee agendas and no meeting minutes, a probable habitual Open Meetings Act violation. Since his appointment as chairman, with no Finance Committee meetings on the city website, Finance meeting minutes were on the 5/11/2020 agenda for the very first time since Alderman Donahue began chairing Finance. However, none were voted on or approved. Blue Island lawsuits are surging. Blue Island COVID-19 positive cases increasing, with COVID not expected to peak in Illinois until mid-June or later, per Governor Pritzker. For the last 3 months, the Finance Committee has regularly failed to address assisting Blue Island's residents with critical needs that include face covers, rent and mortgage assistance, food insecurity, and Blue Island Fire Department advanced life-saving certification that will save lives. Finance Chair Donahue seems out of touch with reality, ignoring the community's essentials and needs, while regularly presenting well-connected contracts for the vote in Finance Committee. Blue Island still needs to flatten the curve so recovery can begin. A health inspector needs to be hired, and inspections of restaurants, grocery stores, and food establishments need to occur without further hesitation, or reopening Blue Island business is going to be further delayed several months longer. The Montana and Welsh crafted ordinance should come from Judiciary, generating additional billable hours for the well-connected Montana and Welsh law firm will result in the loss of grants, impact staffing, and create additional Blue Island lawsuits. Instead of making things better or right for the city of Blue Island, the public, and Blue Island taxpayers, the Finance Committee is only spending and adding to Blue Island's growing debt with outrageous, well-connected contracts. This is bad government. It's absolute worst. Claim you are fixing a problem that does not exist with a lie and pretend you're going to make it something good for the public. Blue Island is being bombed by the Blue Island elected officials who are not working in the best interest of the Blue Island taxpayers, residents, or the public. We must all stand up, demand more, demand better, and sound decisions from our Blue Island elected officials if we're going to make Blue Island better. Next one is from Ron Bloom. The role and statutory responsibility of the Blue Island Finance Committee as stewards of the taxpayers' money, income, appropriations, budgeting, and expenditures carries with it a solemn responsibility to every constituent in making recommendations to the City Council on fiscal matters and recommendations associated with the expenditures of hard-earned tax dollars for the betterment of our community. Crafting and adopting ordinances for the purpose of improving and protecting public health, safety, comfort, convenience, and general welfare of the people, 1991 Code, sections 162.01. Managing a city's budget is indeed challenging, particularly for a small city that relies upon limited income in good times. These are currently extraordinary times because of the governor's extended COVID lockdown of businesses and communities throughout the state and impacts to the economy. Blue Island has long passed its financial good times from this constituent's perspective, in large part because of city council members entrusted with looking out for the best interests of our beloved community have repeatedly made decisions that for many constituents appear to be based on purely political party motives or directives from outside Blue Island, and in place of the best interests of the community, residents, and businesses that each city council member took a solemn oath to represent. Recent examples include the repeated attempts at weakening or stripping the statutory responsibilities and powers of the mayor, hiring outside counsel Ackerman LLP charging $400+ an hour, hiring outside counsel Montana Welsh to represent the city council that, based on comments at the finance committee meeting on May 11th, has combined billing to the city in excess of $25,000 for the first 3 months of this year. Over $25,000 of our hard-earned tax dollars. To what end? Assistance with development of ordinances when the city has an established, experienced, seasoned, and proven city attorney. Money we simply don't have to spirit away. Of special interest at last night's finance committee meeting was a discussion regarding how the proposed retainer of $5,000 per month was even determined. It sure didn't appear that there was much, if any, research or due diligence by finance committee members in coming up with a figure that was ostensibly to address budget shortfalls. Also included a long list of expected responsibilities and deliverables. It sure didn't seem to take into account that the Blue Island City Attorney has depth of experience with city history, city matters, and a track record of delivering on the solemn responsibilities required of the appointed city attorney. For any legal entity to take on that level of responsibility and expected deliverables is setting them up for failure, pure and simple. Plausible deniability and outrage that this may some type of political retribution as expected. We're doing this in the best interest of the city. Really? The Restore Blue Island, or the Restore Party pledged transparency to our beloved community. Some may argue that this move is pretty transparent, but it appears to be yet another politically motivated ordinance that will end up costing the each and every hardworking tax-paying citizen much more in the end. I urge this emergency session ordinance be returned to the Finance Committee for additional study and community input. Sadly, that likely won't happen, as absent the two voices of independent community-focused reason on the council, the Restore Party city council members' first and only consideration appears to be focused on commitment to the residents and what's best for our community. But by taking orders from party leadership and grabbing more power during these unprecedented COVID times. Meanwhile, our city infrastructure is crumbling. The potholes are now craters in many areas. Promises made, promises both broken. Let's work together. Believe in Blue Island. Ron Bloom.
Thank you very much. Any other emails?
That's it.
All right, we move on to number 4 regarding new business. Mr. Clerk, could you read number A, please?
Okay. Consideration of an ordinance of the City of Blue Island, Cook County, Illinois, amending Chapter 31 of Code of Blue Island and Illinois, and establishing a monthly retainer for payment to the city attorney for the performance of general corporate matters for the City of Blue Island, Cook County, Illinois.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Donahue,
Bellato.
would like to make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Donahue Bellato.
I'll sec-
Okay, any questions?
I'd like
I'm
to
sure
make a
there's
motion to
gonna be
table this.
comment.
Oh,
Alderman Fairwell would like to motion to table this ordinance.
Okay,
Second, Alderman
is there a
Holly.
second?
Alderman
Okay.
Holly, second.
There's a
hang on a
second.
Hang on a second. Fairwell and Holly motion in a second. Okay.
If I might speak.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that this really needs to be given more consideration. It may very well be that this, I mean, this very well may be something we need to do in some form somehow. But it really needs to go through some committees. I was just sat on a municipal services meeting. We need to look at what impact that this would have together with the director of public services. It needs to go to health and public safety so that they can talk to the chiefs about the implications there. Moreover, I note, from the advice that we've received from our city attorney, that, as he says in a note to all of us, the authority to hire and fire rests with the mayor as chief executive and not with the city council, or in this case, the finance committee. Hiring is not a legislative function. If this is not done properly, we also open ourselves as city council members to possible legal implications. I think that also needs to be considered. That would be a matter for judiciary. Again, I'm not opposed to the idea, but I don't think that just bringing this up in the middle of the night and calling it, I don't know why this is being done in an emergency meeting. I have zero idea why that has to be done, because it needs to go through committee. It could be done quickly. It needs to be done quickly so that we can have proper consideration.
Hi, this is Alderman Nancy Rita. I actually am the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and I don't feel that it needs to go through judiciary since it came out of finance.
That would be a total
Alderman
abdication of your
Bellato here.
responsibility. I'm sorry.
Alderman Bellato here, with a couple comments, and right now we're just on the motion to table. I was going to save my comments, which might make a lot of people happy, but I was going to save my comments till the motion to approve. Right now we're discussing the retainer motion, not the moratorium. So I want to break that down. So right now we're on the retainer one, and there's a couple of facts that I was going to save for the comment later, but I think we need to get something done. And there's no cuts involved in this retainer. We budgeted a unanimous decision to budget $150,000 for legal defense outside of litigation and workman's comp and other things. And a certain amount of money has already been expended. A lot more money has been expended than if you average it by month. So that we left over the amount by how much is left in the budget is what's divided by the amount of months that are left. So I am all favor of the attorneys, any law firm, bringing back a reasonable explanation or another plan or a plan B at Finance Committee Monday night. We meet every single week as it is. I think we need to start somewhere. And if we approve something tonight, at least the ball is rolling and the council will be serious about cutting costs. The largest vendor we have is our legal team. It's the largest vendor we have with no question, with no one close. Not talking salaries or health insurance. Our largest vendor is the law firm, and there's no disputing that. We also had things out of finance about the moratorium, which we're going to discuss tonight, and also about department heads with 10% cuts. Tinley Park alone is cutting 20%, already cut 20% across the board with rarely any input from their department heads. We're giving at least department heads some idea to come back to us Monday. I think we need to get this done. And the reason why it was a special meeting is we passed a moratorium 2 weeks ago at a finance meeting, and it did not make it to the agenda. And I'm not going to go into specifics why it did not, but it was not put on the agenda. And this also was not put on the agenda, even though it was on the agenda for finance yesterday. So we had to have called a special meeting. Otherwise, it never would have made it to the agenda. So I'm hoping I answered at least that question, Mr. Farnwell.
Okay.
So I don't think we wanted to call a special meeting. I think we had to call a special meeting because it was not put on the agenda.
All right. If you could,
and it was not by fault of the finance committee.
All right. I'm a little confused because I thought that at the end of last night's finance committee meeting, Chairman Donahue had said that the matter of the legislative council was going to be reviewed and put over to another meeting and not brought up tonight.
No, that was brought up. It was asked, and I said no. We were going to go ahead with both items as.
Okay.
Alderman Zylman, I have a question. I watched the finance meeting last night. Why are there two attorneys for Olson and Sturks at the finance meeting?
Excuse me, this is Kerry Horvath. I was the only attorney from our firm involved in the finance committee meeting last night. At the end of the meeting, it was my definite impression that a courtesy that was accorded to every department head was also going to be accorded to our law firm for at least 1 week to try and address any concerns the city council may have or the finance committee may have with respect to trying to reduce legal fees. I did try and explain that the ordinance as written reduced the portion of the legal fees for general corporate to a level far below what is practical. I explained it in very great detail, and reducing it to $5,000, as I explained last night, was actually reducing it below what the firm of Montana and Welsh is charging on an average for the year 2020. But yet we're expected, and there are findings in the ordinance indicating that this council has reviewed in detail the legal billings from our firm and has analyzed them, which I have no idea how that happened because there hasn't been a meeting where that has been done. And I've been at the last 5 finance committee meetings, but there's that finding there. And then there's a subsequent finding without ever discussing any of this with our firm that we can perform all of the legal services that are detailed in that ordinance. And there are 18 or 19 different categories of legal services that we can do that for the sum of $5,000 a month, which, as I explained to the city council last night, was simply not possible. And while I did not use the term punishment, this was the term that came from the chairman of the finance committee by trying to excuse this action as not being punishment. This action is everything what that punishment is all about. You are reducing attorney's fees without any analysis. You are reducing attorney's fees without any discussion with us. You are imposing contractual relationship without any type of mutuality. You are trying to undercut the authority of the mayor and the authority of the city attorney. And you're doing this all under the guise of you have to do it because of the COVID pandemic. So, as I said at the very beginning, it was my impression we were going to be given the courtesy of at least an opportunity to come in with a number which may be acceptable, but which is very realistic as well. On an average, the corporate legal expenses for your community, for all of the things that you require us to do, on an average are approximately $16,000 a month. We don't ask for the legal work. The legal work is asked of us. We try to do it in a manner that is as efficient as possible. We have very experienced attorneys. There are 20 attorneys in our firm. We have attorneys that can do everything. Yes, I appreciate the fact that you have expressed this confidence in us that we can do all these things. But we can't work for free. And we will not work based upon a demand that we work for $5,000 a month when you're paying legislative counsel who reports to nobody other than the finance committee from time to time. You're paying them more than you're paying us. You paid legislative counsel almost $5,000 to do a job that we probably could have done for a quarter of that into working on the appropriation ordinance. They put 25 hours of legal work into an ordinance, which generally requires no legal expertise whatsoever since it's a finance ordinance. That's what you're doing. And to say otherwise is simply ludicrous. So I'm asking you to just hold off, give us an opportunity as professionals, one professional to another or to a group of professionals. Give us an opportunity to show you if we can, that we can reduce this. I'm sorry if we're the largest vendor of the municipality. I don't make the legal work. You do. You're the folks that call us. We don't call you. You're the folks that ask us to do the work. We don't ask you. So don't make it sound like we're doing something untoward.
Hi, this is
Alderman
Alderman
Bellato
Nancy
here.
Rita.
Alderman Bellato here. Let me respond to a couple of those things, and I briefly mentioned it last night. Attorney Horvath, I agree with a lot that you're saying here, but it comes down to, we all agreed unanimously, one of the few times unanimously we agreed, $150,000. There's nothing being reduced here. It's what's left in the budget. And I just want to clarify that. It's what's left in the budget. We've nearly spent with the firm nearly $70,000 in 3 months of billing. Now, in
That's
the
not
ordinance,
true. It
just
is
like
not true, and you know it.
Last
The
night,
first 3 months of billing were $52,800 for corporate legal. That's the total for corporate
even it's
legal.
50, I wrote down 68, but 52,000 for 3 months when only budgeted for 150 for the entire year. My point is, yes, anybody that calls you, you are doing your job as the city attorney, but there is issues that we want to address. And I believe Chairman Donahue brought up some of the issues in the memo he sent out. And I believe you have every right to come to Monday's meeting and see whatever we can change. The issue of not being on the agenda, stuff that came through committee a week ago, the moratorium more than this, because either the mayor or someone refused to put something on an agenda, which he was legally responsible to do, is the reason why I think we need to pass this. And then if you come back to build a better mousetrap, I agree. I will be with you, Mr. Horvath. But right now, we had a fight to just even get this on a legal meeting because it was not afforded the courtesy of putting on a city council agenda by our own rules, but not even our own rules, just common courtesy. A committee passed something 2 weeks ago, was sent to be on the agenda, and never was put on the agenda. So I think we need to pass this, and then we can always amend it on Monday. We're talking 5 days from now. And I said last night, and I think you can't deny it, I said last night that I want you to come on Monday with another plan. That is perfectly reasonable. It's a reasonable request. But I think we need to pass this tonight and then amend it later on, because it's hard enough just to get something on a public meeting's agenda because no one's putting it on an agenda. And again,
Alderman Bellato, your own rules, Alderman Bellato, Alderman Bellato, your own rules of procedure require that before a matter be put on an agenda for consideration by the full city council, that it be considered by a committee. As of last Friday, this committee, your finance committee, had not considered any type of ordinance dealing with the retainer.
I specifically said the moratorium. The moratorium was approved 2 weeks ago. Moratorium was approved 2 weeks ago. Attorney, I don't want to get into an argument with you. I specifically said more of the moratorium issue was approved 2 weeks ago at a finance meeting sent to the city council and was refused to put on the city council agenda. This was done last night. Yes. I brought up the moratorium because it's an example. I am speaking of the moratorium. That's why I think you need to listen. I'm not
about the subject at hand, sir. The subject a month ago on April 6th, your committee.
You're acting out of turn and inappropriate by trying to sell comments away.
Counsel, you do not have the floor, counsel.
Both attorneys, I'm not opening up arguments.
He keeps cutting off Alderman Bellato. It's out of control.
Please.
Fred can't even get 2 words in.
Alderman.
I'm sorry. Alderman Bellato.
I'm professional here, and I don't want to get into an argument with you, attorney. I'm trying to state my piece, and you're allowed to speak also. And we're going back and forth, and I don't think we need to. I stated trying to answer questions about the moratorium, and I clearly said, and you can go back and watch this, I was specifically talking about things not being put on the agenda that passed through committee weeks ago. So we have an issue of trust here with the person that makes the agenda, and I'm not going to point names, but it didn't make it to the agenda. That's why anything done tonight we should pass, and then we can amend because it's passed. It's gone through a city council.
I agree with Alderman Bellato because I actually had the same thing happen to me with judiciary when we redid our rules. And I had asked for it to get put on the agenda and it was not put on the agenda. That had happened with our committee as well.
I may. I have nothing to do with the agenda, but with respect to the subject matter of this particular ordinance, on April 6th, the Finance Committee circulated the same ordinance, and the retainer at that time was $10,000 a month.
And I can address
that ordinance was never considered by the Finance Committee.
I can address that, Carrie. The fact of the matter is that there was increase in billing from the time the original ordinance was drafted until the new ordinance was drafted. In other words, more of the retainer had been used up, and it was necessary to reduce the retainer in the new ordinance. I just want to say one thing, because you made a lot of comments about Montana and Welch and our billing and this and that. I sat in the finance meeting for 5 hours. You sat in the finance also for 5 hours. At that finance meeting, every single department head came up and made requests for more money, adjustments. The finance committee worked with each one of those department heads. You did nothing. You didn't request more money. You knew that it was $150,000 appropriation. You did nothing at all to request more money or say more money was needed. The matter passed council. There's $150,000 total available for general corporate matters. We have to stay within that $150,000. And your billing is in excess of that going forward on a month-to-month basis. This is just an attempt to get things in line.
Council, the appropriation ordinance I had in my hand the night when you discussed the appropriation for legal had a total of $350,000 for general corporate. Somewhere between the meeting when I attended, and it was $350,000, and the meeting when the ordinance was adopted, it dropped from $350,000 to $150,000. And I made that comment at the meeting when the appropriation was made, and you said to me that night, Council, you were at the meeting and you had an opportunity to be heard. I had nothing to be heard on because the amount being appropriated that was in the ordinance in my hand said $350,000. Regardless, there has been $52,000 expended from general corporate at this time. $150,000 was appropriated. Nothing was appropriated for legislative council. Nothing was appropriated for the Ackerman firm. That was your fault. Now you are dipping into general corporate for special legislative council matters. That is the reason you're trying to cut our fees. Let's be honest with one another, council. Let's not play games.
Mayor, please, point of order. We're letting the lawyers debate. Neither are members of the city council. This is a matter of the city council for the elected members of this body, not the legislative attorney and not the city attorney. I do not understand why Mr. Horvath continues to speak and debate with other people. He's not a member of this body. It should be a discussion amongst the voting members.
There's a motion to table.
I am an alderman. May I make a comment? A couple of them?
Go ahead,
I'll let
Alderman.
Farnwell go, but can I speak after that? I have not yet to speak on this.
Sure. We got all night.
Yeah, we sure do. So there's a whole bunch of things that this brings to mind. Probably first is just the nature of this discussion demonstrates we could be here all night and it really would be quite non-productive. There's a number of other things we need to do. So this discussion pretty much demonstrates why this should be tabled and it should be brought through the committees that have oversight over these issues. And that with regard to the legislative issue, then that we go to Judiciary Committee and Finance. The fact that Attorney Horvath has not had consultation, I mean, it's just so basic that Attorney Horvath, our city attorney, should be consulted about his fees and services that need to be provided, and that hasn't happened is another solid reason not to move ahead with this tonight. You know, just make a rational decision in consultation with him and then bring it to city council. And, you know, I'm sure we can all agree on something. I don't doubt that we all agree that we need to watch our expenses and manage things, but clearly this $150,000 figure is just ludicrous. There is no way on earth that's going to work. And as to the subject of the appropriation, it's not a budget, it's an appropriation. We all know that. And when the appropriation came up, I said at the time, we all know this appropriation isn't worth the paper it's written on because of what was about to happen. And we all agreed to that. And we all voted for it. We all knew there were going to have to be changes. But this is not the way to do it. This just isn't.
All right. Thanks, Mayor, may I go now, please?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So just wanted to clear up a couple items that the Montana Welch were, when we passed the resolution last year, it comes out in the resolution, it states where their money's coming out of. It comes out of the corporate legal funds. So that's clearing up that issue. Second, for the 3 months, January, February, March, Olson and Stirk, from our analysis, the analysis I did with Mark Scarlato, they billed corporate legal for $68,000. If we consider going at that, they're going to blow the appropriation that we set by $122,000. We, in the ordinance, the retainer ordinance allows flexibility. If they need more money, all they have to do is come to the finance committee, come to the city council and say, this is why we have to do it. Mr. Horvath yesterday stated that I've called him for matters because I have. I called 2 weeks ago because in an email I got from the finance director, it said, the city attorney wants to see on the agenda. I had no idea what it had to do with. He stated Alderman Bellato wanted to do it. We have all right to call if we have a question. If you look in the invoices, which the city council has, that's another misconception. The city council has reviewed. Every time we vote to approve their bills, we are doing a full analysis of their invoices. If you go through the invoices, you could see exchange multiple correspondence with mayor's assistant, change multiple correspondence with this staff member, exchange multiple correspondence with that staff member. There's a lot of waste. There's a lot of bloat. There's a lot of fat. A couple other examples of waste in these bills: sending multiple attorneys to meetings, fighting the PTAB when the school districts are already fighting for it, having city attorneys sitting on staff interviews when we're hiring somebody. What does the city attorney have to do when we're hiring a staff member? There's no correlation. There has to be something, a mechanism in place to get this under control. This is what this does. And I said it's not a punishment because we're not taking money away from them. We are making them live in the confines of their appropriation. Yesterday at the Finance Committee, we did ask all the department heads to cut 10%. We didn't ask Mr. Horvath to cut his before that by 10%. All we're asking is to live within the confines of what was said in the appropriation. So I encourage us to vote no on tabling this and then vote yes to pass the ordinance when it comes time for that. Thank you.
So there's a motion to table.
John,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
This is Alderman and Johnson. Are
Go
we
ahead, sir.
taking minutes from this finance meeting, making sure that that was a unanimous vote? Which it wasn't. Second
From the
of all,
Finance Committee meeting, yes.
if we did not have Montana and Welch right now, we wouldn't be having this argument. Why didn't we call them in when we was going against affordable? Why we didn't call them in when we was going against the Island Bar? You had no barriers on them when you was going after those people. Now you want to put barriers on something to fix this city. One, we didn't already paid these people $15,000 for doing nothing. Acosta has not brought any new evidence to the table that we already as a whole body knew about. Nothing. But we're going to give them $15,000. Let me tell you what that $15,000 that we gave Montana and Welch, the $15,000 that we're going to give Acosta could buy every resident in the city of Blue Island a mask. The real situation is there's a pandemic and people are dying. And we ain't doing jack to fix it, but sitting here having two entities, two law firms argue about some things that shouldn't even be about right now. We should be
Thank you, Alderman.
focused
Thank
on
you.
this city. So should we table this? Yes, it should be tabled.
Thank you, Alderman.
Mr. Mayor, this is Kerry Horvath, if I may. If I
Yes, go
may.
ahead.
I just was heard that corporate legal was charged $68,000 for the first 3 months. That is simply not true. The corporate legal for the first 3 months of the year was $52,790. That was corporate legal. I have the 3 bills in front of me. Second, and I said this to the committee last night, when we started as city attorneys in October of 2017, the city of Blue Island was spending on an average $750,000 a year for legal. The city had over 8 different law firms doing work, lawyers or law firms doing work, and I don't know if the city council knew who was doing what. During the last 2.5 years, since we have represented the city, we have been able to resolve 2 major lawsuits, which we had nothing to do with. We resolved the Harrow case, we cut the bleeding for the city, we resolved the Thomas case, and we cut the bleeding for the city. You all know what those are about. We reduced your annual legal from $750,000 plus to $400,000, under $400,000 last year. That was known to the entire finance committee at the time when the appropriation was created for this year. Now, I'm not going to sit here and beg for our attorney's fees. I don't think that's professional on my part. What I'm saying is you can't just cut the fees that we are entitled to from an average of $16,000 a month to $5,000 and then say, oh, come back with a plan. And if there's ever been a dispute with respect to the charges that we assess or with respect to the lawyers that attend your meetings, I've not heard that complaint. I've not received anything in writing. And generally speaking, the only time we will bill for 2 lawyers to be at a meeting is if one of the lawyers has to be there for a particular reason. More often than not, if you see a bill for 2 lawyers at a meeting, it's what one lawyer would bill and we split it in half. We do that on our billing. But no one has ever told me that to my face. Alderman Donahue has never expressed any dispute to my face or in writing. And so, bottom line, if that's the case, point it out and then I'll sit down and I'll look at it. If I feel that it's inappropriate, I'll take it off the bill. We do that all the time. If we think that there's something that shouldn't be billed, we do that. More often than not, we do that in advance. But I'm not going to sit here and listen to this and then pretend that you all think you can get all of this work done for $5,000 a month and that next week I'm going to come in with something hat in hand and pretend that we can do it, because that's not possible. This finance committee is acting irresponsibly.
Mr. Alderman Bellato, Mark, give me again, I think we need to limit it to the alderman at this point. A couple points that at this point, born and raised and being elected for so long, I'm tired of hearing what it was before. I'm a history major. I teach history. It doesn't matter what we spent 8 years ago, 6 years ago, or even yesterday. We need to be more progressive and we need to control what's going on. And by all means, again, I support you because I know I have called you and I appreciate your support when I have. If there's issues, I have no problem. You said you come to every finance meeting. It's not hard to say, we got this issue coming up. We need to expend above the budgeted amount, which we would have had to do anyway, even at the 52,000 you mentioned. But I'm tired of hearing, this is how it was always done. This is what it was 8 years ago. We're talking about today. And the world we're living in today is totally different than the world it was a month ago. It was 2 years ago, and definitely 4 years ago. So I'm tired of hearing that.
We got a motion, everybody.
Alderman Nancy Rita,
We have a motion
agree.
to table. I need a roll call, please.
Oh, let Alderman Rita speak.
Roll call.
That's okay.
On the motion to table, Hill,
No. No, not motion to table.
Hill, no. Mac,
Yes.
Mac, aye. Carr,
No.
Carr, no. Cantelo-Zylman,
You're muted.
Sorry, no.
Cantelo-Zylman, no. Clinker,
Aye.
Clinker, aye. Johnson,
Table it.
Johnson, aye. Alexander,
No.
Alexander, no. Bellato,
No.
Bellato, no. Costas,
No.
Costas, no. Rita,
No.
Rita, no. Donahue,
No.
Donahue, no. Hawley,
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Farnwald,
Aye.
Farnwald, aye.
And I also.
And Mayor Vargas, aye. Hang on a second here. 8 noes to table.
All right, I move the previous question.
I second it.
Mayor,
Go ahead. So is there a motion now?
motion to pass the amending chapter 31 of the code. Motion to approve. Hill,
All right, roll
Alderman,
call.
can I speak? There's a motion. May I speak?
motion,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Again, I want to urge the city council to defeat this motion at this point. I would rather have seen it tabled. Looking at the past, I'm shocked and disappointed, Alderman Donahue, that you've apparently been watching all these expenses go by that you've analyzed so carefully that are wasteful and have approved them. It's a little late to be worried about that right now. Maybe we should pay more attention in the future to what we're passing on. To me, they seemed appropriate. I wouldn't have voted yes if I hadn't thought they were. I'd have voted against them. Also, I got to say, this is politics at its worst. There's just no question about it. Restore Blue Island is not acting in the city's interest right now. No way, no how. I can see that. It's obvious. I have to just say it. This thing should be voted down, and it should happen right now.
Hi, this is Alderman Nancy Rita. I'm sorry, Alderman Farnwell, but I completely disagree with you. And as I said at the municipal services meeting, and I was pleading with my teammates, my committee members, that we really need to look at the finances because we are not going to have the money that we have. So this is nothing personal, Carrie. Unfortunately, we can't look at yesterday, as Alderman Bellato said. We are in today, and the reality of today is that we are in a crisis. And unless we're going to have a magic bailout, which we can't count on, we really need to watch what we're doing. And that goes across the board. And I went on and on in municipal services where Alderman Carr had to cut it off. This is not political. This is about the reality of today and where we are at. And also we have to look at the appropriation. And this is the amount that was appropriated for. So again, there's no disrespect, Carrie, but we really need to look at what we're doing because pretty soon we're going to be laying off policemen and firemen, which we can't do. We need them for the city. This isn't about politics. I'm sorry, Bill. This is about the reality we are in today, and we have to look at our finances. We do not have the revenue that we anticipated. We do not.
Alderman Rita, may I just respond?
This is
ahead.
Alderman
Go
Johnson.
ahead.
This is
Go ahead,
Alderman
Alderman
Johnson.
Farnwell.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Bill.
I'll defer to you after this, Dexter. But I just want to respond to Alderman Rita. I do think this is political because if we were serious about wanting to reduce legal expenses right now, we would reduce ourselves down to one city attorney. We only need one. We have a very competent, extraordinarily competent city attorney. We do not need a legislative council, and we sure don't need Ackerman. I'm looking at their bill right now for this investigation. They've spent, they bill us $8,300, and looking through their timesheet, $7,300 of that has been spent.
Because the mayor brought
gathering information they already had that we all know. These are wastes of money, period.
As I said before, if I bought those Tahoes, or if my brother John Rita, when he was employed, bought those, are you kidding me? You would be all
Alderman, you better watch what you're saying, because there's a libel suit against you of what you're saying.
Mayor, Alderman Bellato here. I'm tired of this bickering back and forth. Alderman Fairwell, you brought politics into it. This is not political. I hate getting in the mud with this bullshit, and it's bullshit. And this is a financial fiscal issue. We're trying to maintain the budget how it stands. And I will be the first one in the front. If there's an issue, we can adjust the budget. All right. This is an issue.
You know what? As mayor, I am going to adjust the budget all the way around.
I'm talking to an alderman, mayor, please. I'm just responding to an alderman's concern. And I'm hoping he can hear me because we've had a cordial relationship and I'm responding. I think we are all amenable to issues coming up. We're talking about budgetary issues. There's not a cut here involved. This is the amount that was budgeted. This is not involving litigation. That's all that stuff not involving this ordinance. And again, I think we need to get this done and then we can work on it. We had issues not getting on the agenda. We have issues of trust on both sides, most likely, Alderman Farnwell. And I'm tired of bringing politics into it. This is fiscal responsibility. That's what this is. Just like every other motion, just like the moratorium issue, the 10% budget cuts. Do we bring any other vendors in and let them speak at a council meeting for 30 minutes? No, we don't. All right. And I believe Attorney Beth, I put him in because I let him speak.
This is Alderman Johnson again.
I wasn't finished. I wasn't finished. Okay, Mayor, you're not giving us the same courtesy. This is the trust issue. This is the trust issue. I was still talking.
Yeah, I have it with you too.
Talk without cutting. All right, Mayor, this is a trust issue. All right. I was still speaking. All right.
Go ahead.
Now that I'm allowed to speak, Mayor, all right, I refrained from pointing fingers at anybody, okay? And I will still do that today. The issue, things were not put on the agenda that should have been put on the agenda. And I'm still in favor of passing it. Even if I have qualms and concerns about other vendors, I still want to pass this and work on it later because we might not be able to get it on agenda again. And I respect Alderman Farnwell's concerns and Alderman Johnson's concerns that were brought up. And I agree with some of it, but I think we still need to pass this and work on a solution because it's hard enough to get something on an agenda when it's not being put on an agenda through the proper channels. Thank you.
Alderman Johnson?
You finished, Alderman Bellato?
Alderman Johnson, yes, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Johnson. There was a miracle and there was a crystal ball when we turned out, when you guys voted against the money that Quorum was going to give us. That would have bailed us out of a lot of this that we're going through right now. Second of all, Nancy, you did a great job with finance years ago and never needed an attorney to help us. So that's an extra expenditure. So we need to look really into that crystal ball and look in the past and see how we done good things without certain people, without certain entities. Let's keep it real. If it was your money coming out of your pocket for these lawsuits that we're in, that some of us are in, we'll be broke.
Thank you, Alderman.
I move the previous question, Mayor.
I second.
Go ahead. So there's a motion. There's a second. Roll call, please.
Motion to approve. Hill.
No, I'm still, as I stand before, no. Motion is not to table,
No, this is to approve.
to approve.
Hill, no. Mac.
Aye.
Mac, this is to approve the
I think,
retainer.
Clerk, can you
I think Alderman Hill was confused.
Oh, well, he said what he had to say, Alderman. He doesn't need to speak for him.
table, though, I think we have a connection issue here, and we are all in new times here, and I believe the clerk should respond again.
I asked,
I'm going in and out myself here.
I asked Alderman Hill on the motion to approve.
No, not to approve.
Okay. Mac.
You go.
Aye.
Mac, aye. Carr.
Aye.
Carr, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
No.
Clinker, no. Johnson.
No.
Johnson, no. Alexander. Is that
Aye.
an aye? Alexander, aye. Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas.
Aye.
Costas, aye. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Donahue.
Aye.
Donahue, aye. Hawley.
No.
Hawley, no. Farnwell.
No.
Farnwell, no.
And myself, no, also.
8 ayes and 6 noes.
But you want to read number B?
Yes, consideration of a resolution of the City of Blue Island, Illinois, Cook County, Illinois, authorizing a moratorium on personnel hiring and replacement.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a
I
motion.
make a motion to approve. Alderman Donahue.
There's a motion, there's a second. Any comments?
I'd like to move to table this as well, for reasons I've already stated.
All right, there's a motion to table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
That's Alderman Hawley.
Yes.
Right.
Sorry.
Thank you.
And if, Mayor,
Go ahead.
would you allow me to make a comment about this?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm a little concerned about aldermen making personnel decisions directly. Like last night when we were talking, there were specifics that were brought up about individuals. And I really think that it's setting up you as aldermen for potential issues for acting outside of your scope as aldermen. I just want to put that on the table for you guys because, yeah, this could get ugly with civil rights issues.
Again,
Council, you want to make, Council, this is a turn for Carrie Horvath. Could you inform the council?
Thank you, Mayor. I think what City Clerk was trying to bring home to the aldermen, whether you trust my opinion or not, is that when you act outside of your capacity as a legislative body or as a legislator, and you engage in what are traditionally considered to be administrative activities such as hiring or firing, you lose the absolute immunity that is granted to legislators such as yourselves, who are members of the city council, and expose yourself to the potential or liability should you be sued by an individual or individuals whom you are considering to either hire or terminate or whatever you're going to do in the capacity in which you act when you're talking about employment. And that's a risk you run, and you should be very careful about it. The second and equally important concern is the fact that, at least to my knowledge, none of the unions have been asked for any of their input on what a freeze, as you have referred to it, or moratorium, what their opinion is of what that might be if they have one at all. My experience is that when decisions are made concerning employment or a moratorium, as you're just calling it, that the unions become very nervous, particularly when they have in their contracts provisions addressing hiring, layoff, time limits for doing that. And then third, you also have a circumstance where you have not really addressed this with the various department heads to determine what their particular needs are. You haven't really taken into account, except perhaps as it was brought to your attention last night, the requirement with respect to the SAFER grant, and that you maintain the numbers in the fire department that presently exist. You have not taken into account the need in the police department to fill positions that are being vacated through retirement or through disability. And I don't know the circumstance in the Public Works Department, but I'm told that they're at about their leanest that they can be. And then you have the clerical positions in the police department, which must be filled. And are at their very leanest.
This is Alderman Hill.
Those were all things, Alderman, you'll have an opportunity to speak.
Hi, this is Alderman Hill.
I was asked to address this. I'm pointing these things out because you're undertaking.
Hi, this is Alderman Hill.
You're going to have a committee of your city council try to control hiring, and it's fraught with problems.
Hello?
A legal opinion was given, and I think that I should contribute my legal opinion here. First of all, the city does not vest power to fire solely in the mayor. It's in the corporate authorities.
Hi, this is Alderman.
I've looked at your code.
This is Alderman Hill.
So second, with regard to unions, the ordinance is written in such a way where if there's a necessity to hire or there's a necessity to bring someone on, they can come to the council, a department head, a police chief. Council, they bring their proposal and the council considers it. It's all part of controlling the purse strings.
Alderman Bellato here. This is no different than what Don Ploquin did in the recession in 2008. It's a moratorium. Just to give you a recent example, they're not on finance. Just to give you a recent example, they're not on finance. There was an employee that was uncovered that was not posted. The salary was not in the budget. All right. We're trying to control spending. All we're saying is no new positions can be posted through committees. This is a no-brainer. This is just, in this situation we're in, we shouldn't be posting new jobs that don't exist. In the ordinance, it says if it's a replacement for a police or public safety or public works, or even if they want to create a new position, as long as it goes through some committees. Alderman Hawley, I'm sorry, not Farnwell. We've discussed that we found an employee that was not posted, that salary was not in the budget. We eliminated the ESDA department. I'm sure you're aware of that. This is to stop things like that from happening so there's checks and balances. I don't think any committee is going to go after employees and how it states. I guess anything could be twisted to say a worst case scenario, but right now we shouldn't be posting new positions until there's a checks and balance procedure. And again, we're meeting every single Monday. At least our committee's meeting every single Monday, and every other committee's probably meeting multiple times during the week. There's multiple opportunities so that the committees and the aldermen have an input saying, do we need to post this position right now? That's all we're saying.
Let me ask you this, Alderman. Has the health and safety position been thought about?
Hello?
Johnny, we can hear you. There's other debate going on right now.
I can't hear because you guys are going in and out, so I can't hear you well.
So has
can you
that
hear me?
position been thought about, the health and safety inspector?
Health and safety inspector, Mayor, we approved that last night and it was posted way before any of this. That is not an issue. That was approved at last night's finance meeting.
Just double checking to make sure my notes are similar to yours.
Mayor, if you paid attention, this position was in the budget. It's budgeted. We're talking about positions that are not in the budget. All right. We're talking about new positions. We're talking about
I'm always
replacements.
paying attention, Alderman. I'm always paying attention, so you know.
All right. I'm just saying this position, we always had a health inspector by contract. It's in my committee. We always had a health inspector even till today, as far as I know, unless she was let go, we have an inspector on contract. And we hired, or was approved last night through finance, hiring a part-time inspector for health above and beyond. So that has nothing to do with any of this conversation.
This is Alderman Farnwell. May I
This
make
is Alderman Nancy Rita. Actually, I have a question. Carrie, when you were talking about, we're getting into a fine line here as aldermen. So wouldn't we as aldermen have to vote if we ran out of money, unfortunately, because of the COVID, and we had to do maybe a furlough or lay people off? Wouldn't we be the ones voting on that?
I don't know the answer to your question, Alderman. It's not before you tonight with respect to the hiring freeze and the positing with the finance committee of the decision-making concerning or future hiring will be implemented. If you want to lay off people, there's a layoff procedure in your particular contracts. I would have to look at each one of them. In all likelihood, you would probably have to be at least informed of the layoff. You would probably have some say-so, but that's not what you're doing here. You're imposing a
Right, I
moratorium.
understand
I've
that.
not been able to find anything in the municipal code that allows a non-home rule municipality to impose a moratorium and posit the employment decisions in a committee of the city council. So I don't know what else to tell you.
Alderman Farnwell, comment?
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hi, this is Alderman Hill. I couldn't hear you guys really. You were going in and out, and I wanted to be able to say I changed that from a no to a yes, because I couldn't hear you guys. It was going in and out, in and out.
With respect to that, members of the council, the vote was recorded. The clerk indicated what the vote was. It's too late for Alderman Hill to change his vote on that matter. I don't know why he came into it at such a late time, since there were a number of attempts to try and help him straighten out his vote at the time when it was made.
It was a test.
He's explaining specifically why he needs to change his vote, because we're using an electronic system that's not perfect, and he didn't understand what was being asked of him. He should be allowed.
No, I couldn't hear you guys good. That's the problem. I was going in and out. You were going in and out, so it was hard for me to hear you guys.
Exactly.
It does not change the outcome of the vote, so just move on.
No.
That's not
absolutely
fair.
it hasn't affected the outcome of the vote.
That's not
His
fair.
vote is not what he initially voted, because he didn't understand. He could not hear the question. His vote should be recorded as what he really wants it to be.
That's not fair.
You have my opinion. I'm sorry. I don't feel like arguing with you. Carrie Horvath.
May I go back? May I speak to the subject again?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the thing that really does concern me, given what the city attorney has told me, on section 4 of this ordinance, the first sentence says the city council may waive the hiring freeze on a case-by-case basis. I think this is what he's talking about. And I'd like to believe that none of us are going to do anything untoward, but if it did come down to, oh, I don't like so-and-so, and this is my chance to get rid of them, this is what opens the opportunity for that, and it creates the appearance of it, and it opens us to having legal action taken against us, whether we meant to do the wrong thing or not. It seems to me that the right way to do this, well, first off, is to put this back through committee and work these issues out. Secondly, also, if we're going to, give the departments a 10% cut or whatever it is we decide it is on their budgets, then let the department heads figure out how they're going to hire and fire. They're the people that know who and what needs to be hired, and not us. So if they can create a way to work with 90% of their budget and still keep full staff or cut out people or have part-time or whatever they're going to do, let them make that decision, not us.
Alderman Farnwell Bellato again. I brought up an issue that is outside of anything you just said, that this would have another checks and balances on that. And I don't want to go into details because then it would be political, but I think you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't exist on budgetary or statutory or anything, but a person was hired, okay? Very recently for $100,000 a year, all right? This is additional checks and balances that has to go through committees. And there's nobody on the city council that's going to do anybody. It's got to go through the public process of committees. If anything, it makes it more transparent. So I'm in favor of against tabling, in favor of passing this.
And again, the power is vested in the corporate authority by state law. So you are part of the corporate authorities. You're not risking any liability. Now, is it good to get advice and from the department heads? Absolutely. But the decision is ultimately yours.
But the advice.
Carrie Horvath again.
This is Dexter Johnson.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Council.
There's nothing in the state statute that says you can impose a moratorium and posit the hiring process and hiring decision in a committee of the city council. That's what I'm trying to point out. I didn't say you can't hire, and I don't know what Alderman Bellato was referring to in terms of someone being hired without your permission. It hasn't been expressed with clarity. But my point is exactly what I just made earlier on, is that you're stepping into a place where the slope is very slippery, and you have to be extremely careful, because you will, in acting in the hiring capacity, give up your legislative immunity.
That's absolutely untrue. The power to hire and fire is vested in the corporate authorities. You are the corporate authorities. If you wish to create a situation where you enacted a moratorium on hiring and said that you have to come to us, who already have the power to hire and fire, there's nothing that would make that impossible, because the power is already yours to hire and fire. So even though the statute doesn't specifically say you could enact a moratorium, it's implicit in the powers that are granted to you.
Mark, City Clerk Randy Hoyser here again, just for a quick second.
Go ahead.
Conversation of last night was talking about, and this is what I'm afraid of when we start talking about it in a council meeting. And last night's finance meeting, there was specific employee talk about what a physical capability and health capabilities were of an individual, not a position. And that's the kind of stuff that I think that is making it so that the aldermen, when they start asking these questions in a public meeting about specific employees and their physical capabilities, is where we get on that fine line.
Well, you would do
just really quick, you know, just to clarify, that no one on the city council on the finance committee brought that up. That was Mr. I don't know, I'm not going to say his name. The economic development director is the one who
understand
employees' health status. So it had nothing to do with the finance committee.
No, I understand that. I understand
or any of that.
My point is, though, when you start doing this in an open meeting like this, that's where you start getting into these situations, and it's scary for me.
Wait, you wouldn't do it.
Well, Randy, this is Alderman Johnson. It does.
Go ahead, Alderman Johnson. Go ahead.
It does make sense what you said, because myself and Alderman Bellato was talking about a health inspector, before, and we talking about just doing a part-time situation, which I believe this is, and that's why we should leave it to the department heads, because I believe it should be 2 or 3 of them walking around, especially with the pandemic, and we're talking about a lot of cases coming out of these congregate homes, whether they're foster homes, whether they're senior citizen homes, recovery homes, and now we're talking about restaurants. So that's a whole lot for one person to be able to do, especially in this pandemic. So I'm just saying, the thing that we swore to was to protect the residents and do the best thing for them. And right now, with no health inspector or one that hadn't done any inspection, it's not good. Not when our numbers are the way they are.
So there's a motion and a second. Any other comments?
I just would like to just say one more time, the more we talk about this, the less comfortable I become with the idea of passing this ordinance. I can see real problems, intentional or not. I just think we're opening ourselves a lot of problems here. We're better off given the staff who run our departments budgets. They should figure it out. They should be accountable for the results they produce. And I sure don't want to get anywhere near talking about who or what type of position they should have, frankly.
On the motion to table the moratorium, Alderman Hill.
I'm not in favor of tabling. I'm in favor of passing.
Hill, no. Mack.
No.
Mack, no. Carr.
No.
Carr, no. Cantelo-Zylman.
No.
Okay. Clinker.
Yes.
Clinker, aye. Johnson. Johnson.
Aye.
Johnson, aye. Alexander.
Yes.
Alexander, aye. Bellato.
No.
Bellato, no. Costas. To table. Costas. You're muted, Will.
Apologize. Yes. To table.
Yes, to table. Rita.
No.
Rita, no. Donahue.
No.
Donahue, no. Hawley.
Aye.
Hawley, aye. Farnwell.
Aye.
Farnwell, aye.
And then myself, aye.
Domingo Vargas, Mayor Vargas, aye. 7 noes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 noes, or 7 noes and 6 ayes.
The motion fails for lack of a vote of 8. For the motion the table, the matter to table, there were 8 noes or 7 noes, Mr. Clerk?
7 noes and 7 and 7, correct.
So it's a tie vote, so the motion to table does not pass, okay? So
Hey,
then the
I
matter
move-
is
I
on,
move-
matter is on the floor.
I move for approval of the resolution.
I'll second.
The motion, is there a second?
Bellato, second.
Roll call.
Hill.
I move to not to table.
No, this is to pass the moratorium.
Because I can't, you guys are still going in and out, or it's difficult for me to hear you guys going in and out.
So the motion is to,
I vote yes.
okay. Hill, yes. Mac.
Aye.
Mac, aye. Carr. Carr. Candace.
I'm sorry, aye.
Candace, aye. Cantelo-Zylman.
Aye.
Cantelo-Zylman, aye. Clinker.
No.
Clinker, no. Johnson.
No.
Johnson, no. Alexander.
Aye.
Alexander, aye. Bellato.
Aye.
Bellato, aye. Costas.
No.
Costas, no. Rita.
Aye.
Rita, aye. Donahue.
Aye.
Donahue, aye. Hawley.
No.
Hawley, no. Farnwell.
No.
Farnwell, no.
And myself, no.
And Vargas, no. 8-6, it passes.
Now, do you need a motion for adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
I'll
By
second
whom?
Rita.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're not
Any
done.
opposed?
That was a special.
Thank you. Mr. City Clerk, how much time do you need to start the regular meeting?
I'm just gonna go right to it. I'll be right there, guys.
I
All right,
need
thank you.
Randy, there's a new dial-in, isn't there?
There's a new
Yeah,
number,
yes,
yes.
there is.
What is it?
It's the same as
On
last
the agenda.
2 weeks ago. It's the same number. From the meeting 2 weeks ago.
Oh my God, I gotta find it.
I just emailed it to you all this afternoon. You pull up the agenda, it's right on the agenda. I just
Okay.
read it this afternoon.